Welcome to Spoiler Peace Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Evan Crean. My pronouns are he, him. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast.
And my name is Dave Riedel. My pronouns are he, him. I am also a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I do some other stuff too.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, our co-host Megan could not make it today. We were battling some pretty substantial technical issues with audio today, which really sucks because we wanted her to be here and hear her thoughts on this week's movies. But we will try and work through those so everything's all set for next week. So sorry about that, folks, and sorry, Megan, for the struggles. It sucks. Over on our Patreon this week, we were able to grind out some audio. We talked about the 1954 film The Creature from the Black Lagoon, which was a fun conversation. It was first time watch for us. So
all three of us,
which is a rarity. And we it's not a long movie, but we had a fair bit to say about it. Good amount to say for a 79-minute movie, right? So
yep.
So if you're a patron, definitely check that out, and apologies for any kind of audio quality issues there. We did our best to kind of get that done. And while I'm at it, we'll say thank you to our sponsor, Peace patron, Heather Sachs. Heather, thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
And our Patreon, we release weekly bonus episodes that you can listen to for $5 a month. You get those, and then you can also vote in our monthly polls, and we'll have one coming up in a couple weeks. And now I guess we'll move on to we're talking about two movies today. First, Dave is going to tell me all about Duchess, which is a B action crime movie. And then we've got another action crime movie, The Instigators, which is Doug Liman's latest movie with Casey Affleck and Matt Damon. But first, let's talk about Duchess, which is written and directed by Neil Marshall, co-written by Charlotte Kirk, Simon Farr, stars Charlotte Kirk. Who else is in this? Sean Pertwee. How do you say his Colomini? Is that how you say his name?
Colomini. He's the only.
Colomini.
Aside from Charlotte Kirk, is the only, in my mind, name actor in it.
Yep.
And he's
Chief
in
O'Brien.
one scene. Yeah.
Chief O'Brien is in this, folks.
Yep. So, Duchess, I'm just going to go ahead here and lay this out. I have never seen a Neil Marshall movie that I have liked. There are Neil Marshall movies I dislike less than others. For example, The Descent is not total shit, although it's close. Mm-hmm. But I don't like Dog Soldiers. I don't like Doomsday. I don't like what other fucking movies has he done?
We were just talking about that.
Oh, The Reckoning.
Absolutely
God, that
heinous.
Fucking god awful movie. Also starring Charlotte Kirk, which is about a woman who is maybe a witch during the bubonic plague and blah 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 blah. And it turns out, everyone accuses her of sleeping with the devil and whatever, and she's like, no. And then it turns out she is sleeping with the devil, I think. Yeah. I don't remember. I just remember that it's fucking terrible. And that Evan and I hated it. Yes.
Yeah. Gross. Just absolute gross. Just blocked as much of it out of my mind as possible. Let me do a quick one-sentence IMDb summary of this one, and then you'll tell me how terrible it is.
Okay. Indeed.
All right. IMDb says, follows a tough working-class petty criminal who morphs into an anti-heroine to be reckoned with in a murky underworld in the treacherous world of diamond smuggling. This almost feels kind of like a Mad Libs of thriller movies.
It's a Mad Libs of movie making, because this takes all the worst things that you hate about Guy Ritchie. And, I mean, this is like watching... Now, I think Guy Ritchie is kind of a shit filmmaker too. But Guy Ritchie at least has technical prowess. He's... I don't know. I don't think that he invented it, but he sort of pioneered the super fast, let's call it fast mo, super fast mo, super slow mo, back and forth thing with firing guns and shit like that. And you can kind of see it evolve over time in his movies and how it just gets better and smoother and whatever. But he does do a lot of that dumb criminal shit that I can't stand, which is like everyone's all cockney and they're all cool and they
Right.
fucking have Vinnie Jones like smacking people in the head. And of course, what's his face? Who's the guy that Jason Statham is in a bunch of his movies.
Right.
Jason Statham, who has become quite a fine performer, I think against all odds, but but this movie, Duchess, is just sort of like watching someone. It reminds me of, you remember Joe Carnahan? Do you remember who he is, Evan?
Yes, I do. Smoking Aces.
Smokin' Aces. So Smokin' Aces is kind of like, came out like 4 years, 5 years, 6 years after Tarantino was cool. It was Smokin' Aces is like a 1994 movie that was released in 2006. It's fucking bizarre, because it's got all the cool people doing all the cool shit with all the cool guns and all the different storylines overlapping, and it fucking sucks. And most of Joe Carnahan's movies fucking suck. The only one that I can think of that I like more or less from beginning to end is the one with Jason Patrick and
Ray Liotta.
Ray
Narc.
Liotta. Yeah. What's that one called?
Narc.
Narc. That's a good movie. All of his other movies, I'm just kind of like, who the fuck is this guy? So anyway, Neil Marshall has made a Guy Ritchie 19 Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels fucking crime movie that just happened to come out in 2024. I don't get it. I don't understand what the point of this is, other than to maybe show off Charlotte Kirk doing some cool gangster shit. I don't know. The short version is that, yes, she is a petty criminal. She's basically like a pickpocket who targets, like rich guys and whatever. And she meets this guy in a bar who like sees her doing her pickpocket thing. And she thinks that he's trying to like scam her, or if he's a cop, he's trying to arrest her. And he's like, no, I just think you're fucking impressive and I'd like want to take you out. And she's like, yeah, okay, whatever, dickhead. And he tracks her down, and they have this whirlwind love affair. And he's a diamond smuggler. He's ex special forces. He's American. He's ex special forces, and they get into some gun scrapes because people are trying to kill him. And then he puts together this big diamond deal, and his partners double cross him, and they take him and her to this beach somewhere. I want to say they're in the Canary Islands, but I can't remember. Who fucking cares?
I want to say they're in the Canary Islands.
Yeah.
So I will.
So I will. And they, basically, harikari him, except he doesn't do it himself. And they cut his throat and leave him for dead. And right as they're about to shoot Charlotte Kirk, her boyfriend, whose name was Rob. His name's Rob. He gets like a last moment. He attempts to save her, and he jumps, at the guy who's firing the gun at her, and the bullet just like grazes her temple, and she passes out. But they see all the blood in her face, and like a couple of idiots, they leave her for dead. And so she wakes up, 6 hours later and sees that he's dead, and she decides that she's going to just like kill everyone and take over the diamond operation, and and that's what she does. And it's just, I really wonder, watching this movie, why Neil Marshall keeps making movies that feature women so prominently in it, when all it seems that he really wants to do is beat the shit out of them and perhaps also sexually assault them, because that's basically what happens to Duchess. What's her real name? Scarlett. A million times in the movie. And of course, she's never sexually assaulted. It just looks like she's going to be, and then she gets the upper hand, and like, it's just all so distasteful. And her characters, yes, she's supposed to be an anti-hero, but you don't even like her when she's like a normal person. She's just kind of a dick. So it's just all of these people doing horrible things. I kind of like her two sidekicks in this movie, who are the two guys from Rob's gang who survive the attack. And she's got a friend that she brings in from London who's kind of interesting, just in the sense that it's just kind of interesting to have her old like pickpocket buddy come and like help her out. I just kind of like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But it's all predictable and kind of stupid, and she's got this like East London accent that is like 75% there, but not quite. And it just, I don't know, it's just nasty and stupid. And I just don't get it. I don't understand what the point is of making this movie at this time when it's been made so many times before by Guy Ritchie, for example, and um, and just better. It's just. Ugh. Oh, and the other thing is, and you know how I feel about sound quality. I don't know if this is a result of having to watch it online because the screener was sent to us, to watch online, or if the audio quality is really bad. But the dialogue is so hard to hear in this movie. It's like the ambient sounds and the sound effects and all of those things. Like I had to strain to hear the dialogue. Not that it's worth listening to, but I just the whole thing was just kind of a slog. And it's nearly 2 hours long. Why?
Why?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just a bad movie. The only thing that's even remotely interesting is Call Meany, O'Brien, shows up for one scene as her dad sitting across from her at like, one of those prison tables because he's in prison. It's not
Mm,
quite explained why he's in prison, but you get the impression that he was a horrible psychotic killer and was terrible to her and her mother, but it's not really explained. It's like, well, you've everything else in this movie is like fucking explained to 100%. Why don't you just do that here too? You know?
mm-hmm.
Ay, 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 ay. So the short version is skip this motherfucker.
Yeah, sounds like it. Sounds terrible.
Yeah, it's just there's nothing aside from some of the stunts are kind of cool, but some of them are kind of shitty. Um, there's a scene where I was very happy to see one of the bad guys was going to get a drill in the head at the end of the movie, which he does, but the CGI is so awful. It's like the drill bit doesn't move, but his head moves all over the place, and it's like that's not how that works. Okay, it's kind of like when you're shooting somebody in a movie with like air and the bullet holes are CGI. The bullet
Mm-hmm.
holes, if they're on a person, have to move with the person. Otherwise, it looks fucking terrible. And it's like that, except it's a drill in somebody's head. And all I can say is, if you're going to drill somebody in the head, please go back and watch Lucio Fulci's City of the Living Dead to see how it's fucking done. Okay? Glad my children aren't awake or aren't here with me tonight because that was a loud I just made. and I might have woken up two small guys being like, what are you doing, Dad?
Yeah,
So
what are you so exasperated about?
I know, seriously. So that's that piece of shit. You can skip it.
Yeah, sounds terrible. The drill that head just makes me think I'd much rather watch the You're Next and see the blender to the head scene toward the end.
Love the
That's
blender to the head.
satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? There's one moment of ingenuity that comes to mind instantly when I think of Your Next, and that is, you've got the girlfriend that they didn't know was raised in a survivalist camp,
Yep.
and you see the bad guys outside looking in, and the windows are boarded up, and she's rigged. She's gotten two boards, and she's nailed nails through them on the other side, and she's put one so that they can see it through the window, and they're like, she fucked up. But she's put the second one 4 inches closer to the window, and they can't see it. So when they come through the window, they step on the
Yep.
nails anyway. And there is nothing that smart in this movie for 2 hours that is as smart as those 90 seconds in Your Next. Oh boy.
Oh man.
There you
That's
have
a
it.
shame.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should we move on then?
I fucking beg you to move on.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, let's move on to talk about the Instigators, which for a Boston podcast, we got to watch our Boston movies, and this is one of them. It's, as I mentioned, it's directed by Doug Liman. It is written by Chuck McLean and Casey Affleck, and stars Matt Damon, Casey Affleck, Hong Chow, Michael Stuhlbarg, and Alfred Molina. And it takes place in Boston. how could I forget Ron Perlman? It has Ron Perlman and Toby Jones. Oh my god, I'm so can't
And
believe I
don't
forgot to
forget
mention that.
Rob Gronkowski.
Yes, hype Rob Gronkowski as the hype man for Ron Perlman's mayor.
Yep.
Yep. So let's do the one sentence IMDb. Follows two robbers who must go on the run with the help of their therapists. No, that's not correct. One therapist, and it's only one of their therapists. After a theft does not go as planned. This is piss poor IMDb. Come on.
Wait a minute. Piss poor. That's my phrase. Come on.
This is piss poor. Okay,
Uh,
let's just say, all right, we got Casey Affleck, who's a drunk ex-con, and Matt Damon, who is a depressed ex-military guy who wants to kill himself but needs money to settle some debts. A very specific amount of money, I might add. He needs $32,400, $480 or
480.
something.
Come on. If we're going to get
Um,
specific.
yes, and that's the price that he will work for, regardless of the cut. And the robbery is planned by Michael Stuhlbarg and Alfred Molina, although mostly Michael Stuhlbarg, who's a gangster operating out of Bova's Bakery in the North End. Love that choice. Love
Yeah.
Bova's Bakery, and I love that they just picked Bova's and said, "Okay, this is the criminal headquarters. We're just gonna make it a real place." It's gonna be.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what actually goes on at Bova's, but I can tell you, as a bakery that's open 24 hours, I've walked by Bova's in the middle of the night and seen no one in there, and I've also seen no one mess with the place. So I'll leave your imagination to to do with that with what you will. Uh, let's just say I don't see anybody stealing from Bova's.
Yeah. Now, of course, all the Boston underworld is going to sick this podcast. Thanks, Evan.
But yeah, I imagine that was a pretty fun conversation when they were like, "Well, do we do Mike's? Do we do modern? Nope, Bova's. Bova's is going to be the headquarters."
Yeah, we
And
can't pick
Alfred,
Mike's, right? Because Mike's is everywhere now.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. I don't think that would work. And so yeah, Alfred Molina is kind of like running the day to day, and he's like, "I'm a chef." When he's like being questioned, he's like, "I'm a chef. I don't know about any of this. I don't know about any of these criminal activities." Um, okay, so yes, so they participate in this heist where they're going to rob the mayor, Ron Perlman, on election night, and he's supposed to have a fuck ton of cash at this place, and they're supposed to get in and out through the kitchen and get the money and get out, and it's over at the wharf too, is where they're like trying to, so they're coming in on a boat, and just like everything's going wrong. Like the boat they come in on sinks. The guy who's leading their crew, Scalvo, he is fucking Jack Harlow. He's inept. He's gotten like
yeah.
literally every aspect of this heist wrong. There's no money in the there's no money in the safe. His mask gets ripped off and he just leaves it off and lets everybody see him. They accidentally stumble into a room full of the mayor and all of his cronies, including, the chief of police. They get into a gunfight where Scalvo dies and he also kills the chief of police. And then Casey Affleck gets wounded, and him and Matt Damon steal an armored car, and off we go to the races of ridiculousness.
Yeah.
So then they're on the run, and then Alfred Molina six Paul Walter Hauser on them, and then they blow up a house, like a beach house that belongs to Mr. Kelly, the guy who owns the bar that Casey Affleck goes to. Then they retreat to the bar where Ving Rhames, who the mayor has put on this case, and he drives like a police tank around for all intents and purposes, uh, to go get back this bracelet, this special bracelet that they stole from him that's got the combination to his safe where all of his money is. And what else, Dave? They're running around like trying to pry open the safe so they can get the money out because Ron Perlman has lost the election, which he didn't think was going to happen, to this new candidate.
Who is
And
supposed to be Michelle Wu, I guess.
I I, I guess, well,
Yeah.
yeah, his name is what, Mark Choi.
Yeah.
um, and so yeah, they're on the run. They get Hong Chow involved. She fixes up Casey Affleck, and then
They
they
take her hostage so that they
take her
can,
hostage in quotes.
right. Do I have permission to take you hostage?
Yep. Yep. Then Vin Diesel comes to get the bracelet, and then
Vin
right before they're
Diesel?
about to be Vin Diesel, Vin Rames. That would be a much more interesting
That
movie
would
if
be
Vin Diesel
amazing
showed
if
up.
it were Vin,
Yeah,
Vin
and
Diesel.
then they blow up the bar because Casey Affleck's character has this thing where he just opens the gas lines wherever he goes. Can't believe they did that.
Yeah.
They blow up the bar. What happens next? They decide to go to City Hall to like rob the mayor again, and they set off the fire alarm. They disguise themselves as firefighters, but then someone sees them go into the mayor's office, and then they take Toby Jones hostage. But then everyone knows they're in the office, so they're in there trying to figure out what to do. They drop the whole vault of money on the ground as a distraction. They also find these like hard drives that have all of the evidence of the wrongdoing that Toby Jones immediately is like, here, I will cooperate. And they're like, you do know we're not cops. And he's like, oh, I don't care, I'll cooperate, just take this.
Yep.
So they make a daring escape, but they do get caught. And then they give Ving Rhames the opportunity to take the hard drives and make a name for himself, which he does not do. And then the
He
new
arrests
mayor,
them and turns them over, turns the
yeah,
drives over, which is like, wait a minute, Ving Rhames is like actually a straight shooter in this, which is bizarre.
yeah. Well, especially because like his job is to do like these classified missions where you just go and like trash bovas and beat the shit out of people for information. So it's funny that he's like, well, I will do these like off book missions, but I will still go buy the book for this other thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And then it ends with, the mayor, the new mayor is given these hard drives, and the one of the aides is like, and there's like hundreds of millions of dollars on here that no one will know is missing if you don't take this to court. And then he ends up taking the money and then setting these two, yahoos free.
Yeah.
Interesting
And
choice.
Matt Damon goes to watch his kid at hockey practice.
Yeah, he goes to watch his kid play hockey.
Yeah. Did you watch the post credit sequence?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yep, the post
Just
credit sequence. So also on the side, I forgot to mention, Michael Stuhlbarg is like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. People knew that I did this robbery. I'm gonna be in trouble, so I'm gonna go to my like cabin in the middle of nowhere, and then I'm going to go, I guess, to Canada. I'm gonna run away to Montreal, and then the post credit sequence is like what some Mounties find Alfred Molina and Michael Stuhlbarg like frozen in the woods.
yeah. And they're like, should have worn boots. Because that's a
Yeah,
whole
because there's a
thing in the
whole
movie.
Yeah, exactly. There's a whole thing when they disguise themselves as firefighters that I think Casey Affleck is like, well, these boots are pretty good. We could use these to like escape to Canada when we, run over the border.
Yep.
Anyway, I think that's all the plot that's necessary to know. Um, Dave, what did you think of this movie?
Well, I have a feeling, based on how you're describing things, that you didn't love it.
I mean, when I finished the movie, I turned to Shauna and I said, look, I don't need my Boston movies to be wicked smart, but I would like them to be a little smarter than this.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like,
I go ahead.
I was
You were
gonna
going
say,
to say
I
something else.
had fun watching this, but I definitely wish it was tighter. I wish it was smarter. It just felt like there was just so many like stupid things about this movie that didn't need to be this stupid.
Well, I appreciated that. I appreciated that the way the trailer makes the movie. I don't know if you watched the trailer, but the trailer makes it look like the whole movie is the heist, whereas it
Mm.
turns out the heist is just like the first 15 minutes.
Oh, totally.
you
Yeah.
know. So, and everything else is about them reacting to what's gone wrong. And I
Hmm.
think Casey Affleck's and Matt Damon's charisma carries this movie a whole long way.
Oh, it does for sure.
And I think that I now Hong Chow I think is very good. I don't know if I've ever thought of her as charismatic, but she is fantastic in this part. You
She's
know,
great.
in this
Hmm.
very she's like the straight man, but she's still very funny.
Yes.
And I think the three of them, especially when they're together, is like the best stuff. I think that
Hmm.
unfortunately, Casey Affleck, the screenwriter, should have written a tighter screenplay so that Doug Liman, the director, didn't have to rely on Matt Damon and Casey Affleck, the friends, to make up for the soft spots in the movie's story. Does that all make sense?
Absolutely. Agree with you 100%. I wish this was tighter. I wish it was smarter. I wish it was tighter. Um, I would have liked more action set pieces in this. It seems like there's shockingly few of them. I
Yeah,
mean, there's like that whole chase where they're in the car and they're driving on the Esplanade, getting chased by the cops while the downtown is playing on the
right.
the
Which is a
radio.
strangely kind of tepid car chase, I
Yeah.
thought.
No, I agree with you. I thought it was going to be more. I thought there was going to be more oomph to the action in this movie, and I was kind
Right.
of
Well,
surprised. Like you said, they had their charisma and their sense of humor needs to do a lot of heavy lifting. And thankfully, I think they have the charisma to carry it, and I think they know Boston. They can do Boston humor. Like I really thought it was funny the way they kept, intimating that everyone was after them, and so they had all of the cops working together, including like, Rhode Island Fish and Game shows up at the, and
yeah.
all these cops that aren't real cops that
Vermont
are
Vermont State Patrol shows
yeah.
up.
And they're
Yeah.
all arguing with you. Oh, fuck you. No, fuck you. Like, oh, get out of my way. No, this is my jurisdiction. That part was actually really funny. And I feel like they milked that joke for all it was worth.
Yeah. Um I think that I think tighter is just the way. I don't think this movie is necessarily bad, but I think
No.
like a lot of the scenes, Doug Liman is like a really slam bang action director. So I don't really understand where the the let's just use the word tepid again. The tepid treatment of some of these action set pieces comes from. Like the first
Mm-hmm.
big one after the heist goes wrong is they're in this armored truck and they end up in a parking lot, and then Casey Affleck thinks he sees somebody in the back of the armored truck through the window, and so they're out in this empty parking lot arguing about whether they're going to open this door and see if there's somebody in the back and if there's any money in there. And then there is a guy in there and he takes a shot at them, and it should be 2/3 as long as it is and twice as funny as it is. You know what I mean?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because like if you moved through the whole thing a lot, like the whole, they argue about whether there actually is a guy in the back, and then they open the
Right.
door and there is a guy and he takes a shot at them, and then they have another argument about whether or not they're going to open it again and get the guy out and see if there's any money in there, and what they end up doing is faking the guy out, counting to 3 and then running away. And so they unlock the door, and so when he comes out, they're already gone. And that whole
Yeah.
idea in and of itself is kind of a funny idea, but it's stretched out, and there's like, I don't know if it was improvised. I have to assume a lot of the dialogue between Matt Damon and Casey Affleck was improvised, especially in scenes like that.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't really fly. It fly in the sense of be, light on its feet. It's heavy for some reason.
It is. Yeah. And there's just stuff in it that doesn't make sense. Like you were talking about the post credit scene before, like why would Alfred Molina and Michael Stuhlbarg be crossing the border on foot? No one was really looking for them. They could have just gotten a car and driven over the border. Like there's no reason for them to be running around the woods.
Yeah. I think it was just that they were trying to make a callback to that joke, that long running joke about,
Yeah.
the cold in Canada. Because Matt Damon's got that whole spiel on their bus. He's like, it's the middle of winter. There's 20 feet of snow up there right now,
Mhm.
and it's like, and by the way, having driven to Canada, you can go through like Vermont in the farm country, through somebody's farm and then into some Canadian's farm, and no one will see
Mhm.
you. There's no fucking way.
Yeah.
It's just very, anyway.
Yeah. And then I have to add this. So Michael Stuhlbarg, I saw him in the TV show Your Honor, where he plays a New Orleans gangster. And I'm sorry, but I'm just not buying him as the heavy. He was not convincing in that as a gangster, and it just feel like he just doesn't have what it takes. Like after seeing him in this too, I'm like, all right, you threw a beard on him, you made him slightly more imposing, but I'm still just not buying it. I think Alfred Molina actually would have played better, and they probably should have used him more in this.
Yeah, they should have switched the two of them maybe. But I am going
Mm-hmm.
to disagree with you and say, and maybe it's just because I really like Michael Stuhlbarg and I always have. I just thought that it was funny that he was the gangster in this, and he wasn't a very good gangster.
Mhm.
That's kind of what I liked about the angle that it took.
Okay.
That, you know, he had a little bit of gravitas and a little bit, but he was also way too paranoid to be doing what he was doing. And
Mhm.
I just kind of dug that. I agree with you, though, that there's just not enough Alfred Molina. Because if you
Nope.
have an actor who can do absolutely anything, it's Alfred Molina. So, I mean, he could have played all these parts.
Oh,
And
he could have been the mayor. Can you
yeah,
imagine if he was the mayor? That would have been amazing. I mean, I love Ron Perlman. He's fun, but he's
he's
kind of
not the
chewing
mayor.
scenery in
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I would have believed, you know, Ron Perlman more as the mayor if he was wearing the Beast makeup from Beauty and the Beast when he was on that show with Linda Hamilton, you know?
Oh man.
I just, and I also thought, now I don't know Patriots football the way a lot of people do because I couldn't give a fuck, but I know who Rob Gronkowski is. But it still took me like 15 seconds to be like, wait, is that Gronk? And it's just
Yeah.
like, please don't stunt cast like that because it takes me out, you know? And it
Well,
takes a
yeah.
lot of people out because even if you know who he is, you haven't seen him in 5 years now. Like, what's he been fucking doing? You know? He's been retired for however long
Yeah.
he's been
He
retired.
was on the roast of Tom Brady. That was the most recent thing I saw him in.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this movie would have done a lot better if it had picked and chosen its moments of, I don't know, comedy, action, whatever. It's just there's the other problem I have is, and this is a pacing thing, but it's not necessarily because of the editing or the direction even. It's because there's so much going on in this screenplay. There's just too much ground to cover, and it takes the wrong choices to it makes the wrong things move too fast and the wrong things move too slow. Like the back and
Mhm.
forth between the two characters doesn't need to be as long as it is all the time. Like the conversation about why they can't go to Canada when they're on the bus. I think there's two moments on that bus scene when they're talking about, oh, maybe we should rob a bank or maybe we should do this. And there's that guy sitting next to them who looks at
Yeah.
them twice like, what the fuck am I hearing? Where's the scene with that guy? You know,
Right.
and them just having even if it's like 3 lines of dialogue with them trying to explain to him that they're just bullshitting or something like that.
Yeah.
That would have been more interesting than watching these two flail through another scene. And it's not that they're bad. It's not even it's just not good enough, you know?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
No, absolutely. I mean, and I love Paul Walter Hauser, and I feel like he's also kind of playing this like he's also chewing scenery in like his like couple of scenes. I mean, the guy he plays a character named Booch. Come on.
Yeah. I like
And,
Paul Walter Hauser a lot.
oh, me
So,
too. I think he's fantastic. I wish he was in this more actually, and I wish we understood more of the relationship between him and Casey Affleck's character because they definitely knew each other.
that's the thing. That's another thing that they didn't do
Yeah.
right. Is like all of the gangsters in this movie know each other, you know, and some of them like each other and some of them don't. And you can tell that Booch and what's Casey Affleck's character's name? Cobby. They don't like each
Hmm.
other, you
Yeah.
know? And also the woman that Booch has with him, she doesn't like Casey Affleck. So there's a whole thing you could do there that they just kind of skip over.
Yeah, in favor of just blowing a house up and then having him, Paul Walter Hauser goes flying and then just barely gets injured by it.
Yeah. Hmm. So, not
A lot of
great.
missed opportunities, I think. Like
Yeah.
perfectly serviceable action movie and funny and fine. Like I said, I wanted it to be a little smarter. It would have been
Yeah. I mean, I will
j-
say that it does use its Boston locations very well. I
oh, for
mean,
sure.
there is no doubt when you're watching this movie go down that that's Boston, you know? In
Yeah.
fact, I, I'm in the city a couple of times a week, usually 3 times a week. I don't know how I didn't know this movie was being filmed last year, you know, because this
Mhm.
movie on the exterior, like there's a whole sequence that takes place out in front of City Hall at night.
Yep.
You know, that took, I'm going to guess, at least 5 night shoots, you know, because there's
Probably. Yeah.
crowds, there's explosions, there's shit being dropped out of, City Hall onto a truck, which I'm assuming is all CGI, but you still have to like have the camera and the people out there fake watching it.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Surprised nobody made a joke about how shitty City Hall looks from the outside because it's one of the fucking ugliest buildings in any city, in any country, anywhere.
Yeah, it's true. It's known.
Yeah.
It's infamous for its ugliness.
Yeah. Like if I went to work there every day, I would be like, you know what? We're moving the mayor's office. Fuck this shit. Like, well, let's go to the Old North Church. This is the mayor's office now.
Hmm.
As he breathed in heavily on the mic. Sorry, everybody. I heard myself doing that.
Yeah. Although I'm not sure the car chase added up in terms of the geography of it. I feel like they were
No.
definitely jumping around in places. I'm like, yeah, it's not really how you would get there
Yeah, they
driving
get
around the city.
they get to Memorial Drive way too quick from where they are in I can't
Hmm.
remember actually where does Hong Chow live? It's not
Uh,
it's not Beacon Hill because it's too flat. Um,
that's a good. I think she was in I think she was in South Boston, based or Back Bay, based on kind of like the architecture of
based on the
her
alley,
place.
like I was kind
She
of
was
like
living in like a brownstone kind of place, and they had there were all those like alleyways, kind of
it made me think of South Boston too, though, because it had that, it used to be shitty, but now all the, people have gentrified
gentrified.
it, but it still
Yeah.
has all those alleys and everything like that and the kind of wide streets in certain parts. So that kind
Hmm.
of makes sense, but who knows? I did appreciate though that when they went into the tunnel in '93, which if you're going to try to escape via car from law enforcement anywhere in Boston, aside from the North End, I would say the worst thing you could do was go into the tunnel. But then a truck jackknifes and cuts the police off from them. I was like, hey, they actually thought this through. Or
Yeah.
at least Casey Affleck and Chuck McClane did. But
Yes. I thought that was actually really cool that
yeah,
it wasn't really that they were skilled at getting away. They just were lucky that a truck jackknifed and basically blocked the cops from getting to them.
yeah, totally. Um,
Good choice.
how did you think it looked? Did you think it looked okay?
Yeah. I thought it looked okay. I didn't really have any qualms about how it looked.
Yeah. Well, I'm always interested in how Doug Liman's movies look rather because he shot Swingers, which is it's one of those movies that it almost looks good, but it doesn't quite.
I haven't
So
seen that movie in so long.
yeah, well, it's got that whole. You remember in the dance sequence in the end when they're doing the like the swing dancing, and the
Hmm.
camera keeps going out of focus on the band and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like years later, I saw some interview with Doug Liman where he's like, "Well, uh, we were moving around so much, and I'm not really a director of photography. We just kind of did it to save money." And he said, I just kind of lied and told everybody that the camera going out of focus was part of my like bag of tricks to make it look cooler. He's like, but really, it was just because I couldn't rack focus fast enough. So
That's
I was just
funny.
wondering if there are any moments like that in this that you noticed, but I didn't really.
No, no, I didn't. Although it's funny you bring up Swingers because I back in the Netflix DVD days, I remember like I would sometimes unintentionally rent movies like back to back that somehow had something to do with each other. And
Mm.
there's that line in Swingers where John Favreau says like, what are you doing starting a fight with this guy? Haven't you seen Boys in the Hood? And I
Hmm.
literally had just rented and watched Boys in the Hood. I'm like, hey, I get that joke.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's funny. It's like, how I watch all those movie reaction channels on YouTube and they
Hmm.
watch movies that I have, of course, seen because they're 30, 40 years old now or whatever. And you hear
Hmm.
jokes that I know why they're jokes, but the people watching them because they're 25 years old don't know. And they don't even know it's a joke. So there's going to be a whole group of people who've never seen Boys in the Hood who are going to be like, all right, it's a reference to Boys in the Hood, but I've never seen that. So why is that funny? So,
Yep.
yeah.
I think we've come pretty far afield from the Instigators. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about with this movie?
No, but this is an interesting thing that happens to us when we're watching a movie that we don't hate, but we're like, it's fine, it's okay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it leads us into conversations about movies we like better.
Yep, it's true.
So this movie has done that to us.
Yeah, it has, and it's also funny because we'll watch movies that we really hate, and we'll just like lay into them, and then somewhere along the way we'll start trying to like doctor the movie. We'll
Mm-hmm.
Doctor Chris. We'll think of ways that could have been better, and then we start also talking about other movies that we like better, but usually in reference to how it could have been more like one of those.
Yeah. I have to say, I was listening, listeners, if you recall, maybe 4 or 5, 6 episodes ago, we watched The Blue Rose, which I said was the worst movie I've seen in 2024. I don't know what possessed me to do this, but I was listening to another episode from earlier in 2024, and I don't remember what the movie was now. I got to look it up. But I said that was the worst movie I've seen in 2024. So I remember thinking at the time, though, yep, Blue Rose is worse. So we're still safe.
Moving the goalposts on us, Dave.
I know. I know. I got to be careful about that shit.
All right. Well, I guess let's bring it to a landing. So Duchess, I guess is going to be in theaters, and it sounds like a big old skip from Dave.
Yeah, it's just bad. Bad, bad.
Mm. And the Instigators will be playing in theaters, and then also is going to be streaming on Apple TV Plus. I think I would say see it. I don't think it's bad enough that I would say skip it. What about you?
Yeah, you can see it. I mean, it's a nice diversion. Like this is one of those movies where it's Friday night, it's Saturday night, you're tired, you don't want to go out, but you don't want to go to bed either, and you're like, "Oh, it's on fucking Apple TV Plus. Oh, I'll check this out because I already subscribed to it, so it's not going to cost me anything except an hour and a half of my life."
Yep.
What a ringing endorsement.
I know. It is at least worth that.
I remember what it was. I said Unfrosted was the worst movie I'd seen in 2024, and then we
Oh,
saw The Blue Rose.
yeah. Yep.
Those
Yeah.
actually, that's neck and neck right there for the two. Oof.
I think Blue Rose was way more painful, but Unfrosted was pretty fucking painful.
I think the thing about No Unfrosted that makes it maybe take the worst of 2024 spot is because you have so many talented people working on it who are failing so confidently.
Yes. Okay. I could see that.
But
Yeah.
the Blue Rose is really confident in how awful it is too. So
I know. I was just going to say the same thing. You took the words right out of my mouth.
yeah, I mean the Blue Rose thinks it's hot shit.
Yeah.
So
It's got some swagger,
it
completely
sure,
unearned.
yeah. Oh my god. Whew. Well, we've come far afield again.
Yep. It's one of those nights. We're a little punchy. It's a little later recording this than we normally do. Okay, so we talked about Skip
Yeah.
Duchess, See Instigators. Not a ringing endorsement, but an endorsement nonetheless. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're bummed that Megan couldn't make it. Although she did tell us that she hated Duchess, and I think she also hated Instigators.
Yeah.
Maybe next week we can catch up with her and find out what her thoughts were.
Yeah. I don't want
Get
to put
some.
words in Megan's mouth, but I think she probably hated Duchess more.
Yes. Yeah. No. That seemed to be the case. That's for sure. So So yeah, so I think that wraps things up. Bummed Megan couldn't make it, but thank you to our editor Otto Clamor, who makes us sound great week after week. Really
Yes,
appreciate
except for
it.
this week, I'm editing the episode because Otto is
That's
on
true.
vacation. So if you have a problem with this week's episode, it's my fault, not Otto's.
I wasn't gonna say it was your fault or anything. I was just gonna mention about Otto is
Okay.
on vacation this week, so Dave is editing.
Right.
So thank you to Dave this week.
Yeah.
You can find us anywhere you get podcasts, but you can also go to our website, spoilerpiece.com. We're on social media. We're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook, at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram, Letterbox. And I think we're also on Threads, not yet on Blue Sky. There's just too many. There's too many places
Too
now.
many places now. Definitely not on Truth Social.
No. I just recently found out that when you repost something on Truth Social, it's called a retruth, and that just I died laughing from seeing that. And it was like somebody posted a screenshot, and it was like 48 retruths, and I'm like, oh my god, it's
God.
called retruths. Yikes.
Hey.
Anyway, you will not find us on Truth Social. That will never happen. You can, if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can give us a call,
At 862-21-PEACE.
and that's piece as in piece of pie, just in case you're dialing the wrong piece. Um, you can leave us a voicemail. You can send us a text. We'd love to hear from you. What your thoughts are on this week's movies or other movies you've seen recently. Always like to hear when you guys watch movies and you go, "Hey, I want to know what Spoiler Piece would think," or "I want to know if they saw this and what they thought." Always love to chat with you. And if you like the show, please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece, and that will take you to your platform of choice. Always helpful to get those reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Those help boost our profile. We appreciate it. And if you really, really like the show, please consider joining our Patreon. Each week we put out bonus episodes for you. This week we talked about the 1954 film The Creature from the Black Lagoon, which was a lot of fun. And yeah, we do monthly polls as well that you can vote in. So think about signing up for that. And if you're already a patron, thank you so much. And thank you for listening. My name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast. You can follow me on social media as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
And my name is Dave Riedel. I write about movies. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I am on the socials as Dave Sees Movies, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, and Threads. Yeah, that sounds right.
All the places.
All the places except for Truth Social, where I
Yep.
would be Dave Sets Fire to Movies. I don't know what I'd be called there.
That's a great handle.
Yeah. There you go. I'm going to go do it right now after we log off.
You need another one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, folks, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.